Hello there everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is Nikki and we are here to do another movie inspired makeup look here on this lovely Friday. Today we're going to be doing Nightmare Before Christmas. We're going to attempt to recreate Sally while we talk about the film itself. Doing my research, this film was so sick. It was so much fun. I really just, I loved it. I don't know. So I'm excited to share everything that I was able to research and find out about the film, and hopefully you guys find it interesting as well. I will be listing every product that I use down below on my face, as well as some outfit ideas that you might have if you're trying to go for the entire Sally vibe. So if you do want to see those are all going to be linked down below. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started in recreating Miss Sally. Since Sally is essentially a skeleton, she doesn't have eyebrows. So my first step is doing glue sticks on my eyebrows. What I'm gonna do is basically push my eyebrows up with this gel. I tried to cut them down just a little bit because my eyebrows are definitely on the thicker side. And what we're gonna do is just do this to both of our eyebrows, is push them up and just try our best to flatten them as much as we possibly can. Especially with thicker brows, you really want to make sure that they're all set down. I'm just pushing them, pushing them, pushing them. You might have to repeat this process more than once. It's just gonna kind of depend on your brows. Okay, so I went ahead and did like 2 to 3 layers of glue. They feel pretty dry overall. So what we're gonna do next is basically set them in place, as well as wipe around any extra glue that I have kind of around my eyebrows. So what we're gonna do is take like a wet wipe or like a makeup cleaner, whatever you guys kind of have around. And just make sure to clean around your eyebrows where the glue maybe went a little bit over. It will show up in post if you do not kind of even it out. There's a lot of videos that are out there that do a really good job of explaining why you should why you should hide your eyebrows, and how to hide your eyebrows. I'm not gonna go too crazy in detail about the hows, the whys, all of that sort of stuff. Just do what you can to research how to do this, and then we can start with the face. When it comes to securing the brows and kind of hiding them, I've never been too good at them, so I've never wanted to steer you guys in the wrong direction. So this is just kind of my way of attempting it. I'm hoping that it comes out okay, but we shall see. What I'm gonna do now is put some Mercier face primer. Skip the eyebrows, don't put any by your eyebrows, but for the rest of the face, to just have whatever colors we're gonna put on next stick a little bit better. But looking at Miss Sally has like a grayish blue sort of tone. So what I'm gonna do next is I have my Ben Nye Clown White, as well as this Ben Nye Cosmic Blue cream colors. I'm gonna have them all put on a little plate over here, and I'm gonna mix it up till I get a color that I feel like works best. From there, we're gonna apply that color to our face and talk about this movie. So you can kind of see it in the camera. I've kind of come up with this sort of color. I feel like this could work. It's a bit more on the blue side. I might add a little bit more white, but I think overall we've gotten the color that we want. From here, let's just start adding this bluish color all over our face. So Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh man, this is such a good movie. Nightmare Before Christmas. Let's start off with Tim Burton, right? Tim Burton, it's called Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. And Tim Burton was a individual who was brought up in Burbank, California. He was a filmmaker who was really big on holidays. It said that, anytime it was Christmas, anytime it was Halloween, it was a great time for him. And it gave him a sort of like texture all of a sudden that kind of wasn't there. So to say that the holiday season was his deal, it was his deal from a very young age. He was working with Disney at the time, and he actually had a short film with them called Vincent. that he had released in 1982. At the time, he started writing poetry and kind of doing his thing while he was working with Disney, and he wrote like a 2 to 3 page poem called A Visit from St. Nicholas. And basically it was a poem that kind of took inspiration from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, as well as How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and he kind of made this poem. He originally wanted to make this poem kind of like a TV special thing, and he wanted it to be narrated by Vincent Price, which, if you don't know who Vincent Price is, I'm sure you've heard his voice in many films. He is basically the guy who did Thriller, the Thriller voice. To terrorize y'all's neighborhood. Da-na-na-na-na-na. He has like the ultimate villain, scary guy voice, this Vincent Price. He really freaking does. So originally that was his idea. He was like, yo, we're gonna get Vincent Price on here. We're gonna have him do this thing. It's gonna be great. Love it. At the time though, he also considered possibly making it into like a children's sort of book, but he wanted to make it into something. It was like a short film, little TV special, kids thing, like something, but that was kind of his direction and his idea with it. So after he wrote this poem, he decided to create the concept art and the storyboard to kind of go with it, and he did it with a guy by the name of Rich Henriches, I don't know how to say his name. And he started to sculpt the character models. After the success of his film Vincent in 1982, Disney started to consider Nightmare Before Christmas as either a short film or like a 30-minute holiday TV special. Eventually, they decided to stall it because apparently it was a little bit too weird, and they thought like, oh, well, the kids might like not dig it, you know, all that sort of stuff. So they were like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do this anymore. Whack. So, you know, he just kind of kept trucking along, doing his thing. And shortly thereafter, Burton was actually fired from the studio in 1984 and went on to direct other films, including Beetlejuice and Batman. So, as we both know, both of those were pretty big successes, so they missed out. They definitely missed out, and it kind of sucked for them, but you know. So the next step before we continue with the storyline though is I've kind of gotten everything blue. It's a little bit on the more splotchy side of life, but you know, we're gonna make do with what we got. And what we're gonna do next is basically set all of this in place. I'm gonna get my white powder going, and we're just gonna press it in and make sure that everything kind of sticks where it's at. So even while Burton was kind of doing his filming with Beetlejuice and Batman and all of that, he still was thinking about this poem that he wrote. He was like, dude, this poem is dope. I see it. It can be a really dope process. I still want to do it, you know, but, you know, dang Disney, they ain't want to do it with me. So, maybe I can go on my own and do it. Well, in 1990, Burton actually found out that Disney still had the rights to the film. So if they have the rights, he has no choice but to go with Disney to kind of create the film. And he was kind of bummed on that. So at that point, basically, him and Henry Selick were like, nah, like, we gotta make this happen. We gotta make this a film. And so that's exactly what they did. They kind of went back to Disney and they were like, look, can we do this? And at that time, you know, since Burton had gotten so much success from the media of, you know, his other 2 films, it was kind of an easy sell. At the time, David Kassenberg, which if you guys don't remember, he was in the Ariel video. So if you're interested in him, he was in that too. But Jeff was still a part of Disney, and he was like, you know what, like, you've had some live action success, you know, and you know, I kind of see this film as like an opportunity at this point. It's kind of funny how that works in life, you know. Someone, you know, doesn't kind of fit a studio's wants and needs, they leave them, and then like here they come crying back like, oh, you know what, actually I was thinking that, you know what, yeah, I want to work with you. I guess though, in one form or another, you gotta be happy that they come around at some point, because if they didn't come around, then we wouldn't have the film. So it's kind of like it's a double-edged sort of thing, but still, it's kind of like, but anyways. from here, really quick, and then we'll get back into the story, what we're gonna do is some light contour action around here. I'm gonna put on a wig after this, which is why I'm not too concerned about this upper region up here. And then also, I'm not gonna be wearing a dress or anything, but what you would do if you were going all the way is bring the color all the way down to wherever your shirt may be. And then from there, add the stitches on top. But since I'm not wearing a shirt like that, I'm just gonna go in and do my contour on the face so that you can get the face basically knocked out. And then it's the same principles everywhere else going down. But for the contour, I'm just gonna lightly do a little bit of this dark blue color. I don't know what the name is, but it's a dark blue color that's on the James Charles palette. And I'm basically gonna take it and work it in the crease to just kind of give it a bit more of a contour action. Okay, after you've kind of done that, now we're gonna jump in and start doing our liner, basically. Making ourselves basically look more like Sally. We're gonna basically take some lines, draw them out, do a little bit of like an Xing sort of motion, and then move the same thing up here. I'm gonna personally do it in black because in some shots it does look more on the black side with a little bit of like white crossing. So if you do wanna do it with white, we can do that as well. I don't mind that. But yeah, they're just kind of mix and matched. So that's just kind of how I'm gonna try and take it from here. So we're glad, right? David Kassenberg was like, yeah, let's do this, whatever. Let's do this film. We're gonna make it great. I'm all in now. They were really kind of on a high as well at that time because they had just gotten off of the high of Who Had Framed Roger Rabbit and all of that. So they were definitely kind of like, oh, you know what? We're going to do this and we're going to do a great job. This was actually going to be Burton's third film that kind of had the theme of Christmas in it. At the time, he was also working on Batman Returns. And he kind of was like, okay, like, you know, this is cool. This is my film. This is my idea. I'm so excited to do it. But on the contrary, you know, kind of busy right now, you know? And there's a whole process that goes with doing stop animation. And so he was just kind of like, look, man, like, this is going to be a lot of work, you know. I'm going to have to find people basically to like help me do this. And that's what he did. He then went to talk with his like Beetlejuice co-star, co-assistant, co-collaborator by the name of Michael McDowell, and kind of asked him to help him like make the poem into a screenplay. But he ended up having a few creative differences with him and was just kind of like, I don't know. And so from there, he basically kind of moved on. He ended up going with a musical sort of direction as opposed to like a sole screenplay kind of version. And so he kind of started collaborating with Danny Elfman. And Danny Elfman, if you don't know, he has done a lot of amazing films. It was honestly a perfect match that they had. Danny actually had said in a interview that he found the writing for this movie to be one of the easiest jobs because he felt like he could relate to Jack Skellington really well. So Selick and his team, they started kind of beginning the production process in July of 1991 in San Francisco. They had over 120 production workers and they utilized 20 sound stages for the time. And at the peak of its production, they said that all 20 of the stages were simultaneously used for the filming, which is kind of impressive. There were 109,440 frames that were taken for this film. Considering this was stop animation, that's a lot of pictures. Like in one session, I might take, for an entire event, I might take about 1,000 pictures. So imagine me doing like 100,000 events. That's the equivalent of like how many pictures they took for this film. So I thought that was insane. Selick described the production to be as akin to like a pop-up book, with Halloween Town kind of giving a German expressionism sort of feel, Christmas Town giving like a Dr. Seuss kind of feel, and then the delivering of the presents in the real world just kind of keeping it like plain and just dry, which I thought was kind of like an interesting way to kind of think about the worlds that they had created. They had reached out to Vincent Price, Don Amachi, and James Earl Jones were considered for the narration, but instead they hired Ed Ivory. for the narration. They said that the filmmakers had constructed 227 puppets to represent the characters in the films, with Jack having around 440 heads. What? What? They also said that Sally's mouth was animated through a replacement method. They would like literally take her face and remove it and then put it back and then put a new one, and kind of that's how they would kind of go about the stop animation form for her. So what I'm doing now is just taking some blue to just kind of give myself a Scully vibe. I'm kind of taking it to where my brow was and just kind of making it all dark. I want to feel very hollow, and this is my way of doing it. They said that Sally had about 10 different faces with about 11 expressions each, you know, from blinking to smiling to laughing to seriousness, all of that sort of stuff. She also had synchronized mouth motions to go along with it. The figuring that they used for the stop animation for the film, they actually ended up using in James and the Giant Peach as well. So now let's jump into the actual release of the film. So the film was originally going to be released as a Disney picture, but you know how it goes. Disney was like, yo, I'm down to release it as a Disney film, but like after they had completed it, they were just kind of like, you know what, this is a dope film. I enjoy this film. I think it's great, but you know how that butts come in. But they thought that in a way it kind of was a little bit too scary for kids, and so they ended up releasing it through like a sub company of Disney called Touchstone Productions. To also get a bigger audience, they decided to name it Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, as opposed to just Nightmare Before Christmas, because in that time frame, you know, he was pretty big. He was big, he was booming, he had all these films coming out, and so they thought that it would, you know, kind of bring a lot more recognition to the film. But it also was said that Tim Burton wasn't really as involved in the film, so to speak. Maybe coming to the set 5 days total out of 2 years, at about 8 hours a day, just because he was working on all the other films. So, you know, this selling guy, he was doing his thing. Danny Elfman was doing his thing. All of the people who were creating it, you know, they were doing their thing. Tim wasn't as involved, but of course the poem originally was his. So it's understandable as to why, you know, they would put his name so big in lights, all that sort of stuff. It filmed at the New York Film Festival in October 9th of 1993 and was given a limited release on the 13th with a wide theatrical release on the 29th of that October in 93. It was reissued in 2006 under Disney, and it also was released 3 more times after that in 2007, 2008, 2009, and most recently in 2020, with it being 4th in the box office behind Tenet. So all I did now is I popped on these lashes, did a little bit of mascara, and I added a little bit of like deep blue underneath my eyes to just look a little bit less pink. So now I'm gonna throw on this wig and give you guys the last little bit of details about the film and kind of, you know, how did it really do financially. And we're back. Let's talk about the last bit, and then we're gonna talk about the final thoughts on this look. So one of the producers, or one of the people who was involved in the film, they really wanted the film to be a huge success, like box office #1, hit, money everywhere. But unfortunately, it really wasn't. It was a film that did pretty good, but not as good as they wanted. Disney hadn't given them the biggest budget, so they did what they could with the budget that they had. And in their first run, like I said, they did about like 3 or 4 runs in the market, and in their first run they made about 50 million in the box office, and then through its reissues it made 11.1 million, 15.9 million, and then 2.5 million in 2020, and basically they made about 91 million with the film. So it did not do too bad in comparison, but at the time, especially with the first release, they definitely wish that it made a little bit more, which I can understand. Everybody kind of does. But that's basically the film. That's the ins and outs of it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys had fun learning these different facts about it. I thought it was pretty cool to see how many pictures they took to make this stop animation film, and just to see that it kind of got worldwide acclaim. Like once it came out, people were just in awe of it. Like the storyline, how it twists, how it feels, all of it. I mean, it was just stop animation in general. It's just always impressive off the bat, and then the story that goes with it is like great. They did try to remake it once, and Tim was like, no, we do not need to do no sequel. We don't need to do no remakes. Like, this is what it is. It was great. Leave it at that. So we'll see if they decide to remake it in the future. I don't know. But yeah, that was basically the film. This was our recreation of Sally. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The only difference is that you would do if you were going out with this look is bring the blue all the way down, make yourself some stitches kind of going down with your shirt, and then also if you are wearing a wig and it is a lace front, color the lace a little bit here on the top, because you don't want to be, you know, skin tone and blue, you know. I'm not going anywhere, so I'm not too pressed about it, but that is one thing that you will need to do, is the skin tone versus blue. And then also make sure that you glue it all the way down. I didn't, because I was like, I'm just gonna take this off anyway. But other than that, that should be it. If you guys have any questions over anything, let me know in the comments down below. And I hope overall you guys enjoyed it. I had a great time. This was a fun look, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.